The giant crystal towers of Zentara Prime reached toward the purple sky like frozen lightning. Inside the tallest tower, thousands of alien beings sat in a massive circular room. This was the Galactic Council, where the most powerful species in the galaxy made their decisions. Admiral Quan sat in the back corner in a section marked Minor Species. His human uniform looked plain next to the shining armor and exotic clothing of the other delegates. He kept his face calm and his hands folded just like he had been taught. To everyone watching, he looked like a simple human trying not to cause trouble. The meeting had been going on for hours. Quan listened as one alien after another talked about trade routes, resource sharing, and territorial disputes. Finally, the topic he had been waiting for came up. "Now we discuss the Minor Species Catalog," announced High Speaker Velthok. The tall, gray alien's voice echoed through the chamber. "We must decide which young civilizations deserve continued support." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. Thousands of planet names scrolled by in alien text. Quan saw Earth appear as entry number 47,291. The description was short and dismissive. Primitive bipeds. Recently achieved basic faster-than-light travel. High reproductive rate. Limited technological advancement. Ambassador Zefkar from the Vorthic Empire stood up. His red skin gleamed under the chamber lights and his forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke. "I propose we reduce resources to the humans of Earth. They are nothing more than evolved apes who got lucky with a few scientific discoveries. They contribute nothing to galactic civilization." Other aliens nodded in agreement. Someone from the back shouted, "They breed too much. Soon they will want more planets," another delegate added. "Their ships are crude. Their weapons are basic. They have no special abilities. Why waste resources on them?" Quan felt his jaw tighten, but he forced his expression to stay neutral. This was exactly what Earth leaders had expected. For 50 years, humans had carefully presented themselves as harmless and backwards. Every ship they sent into space looked primitive on the outside. Every diplomat acted grateful for the smallest scraps of alien technology. Every human colony appeared to struggle with basic survival. The lies had worked perfectly. "The humans consume too many raw materials," Zefkar continued. "Their planet produces little of value. I say we cut their resource allocation by 60%. Give those materials to civilizations that can actually use them properly." More voices joined in support. Quan counted the votes in his head. It would pass easily. Earth would officially be labeled as a failing species that barely deserved to exist. High Speaker Velthok called for the formal vote. All in favor of reducing human resource allocation by 60%? Thousands of appendages, tentacles, and energy signatures indicated agreement. The chamber filled with clicking, humming, and chirping sounds that meant yes in dozens of different alien languages. All opposed? Silence. "The motion passes," Velthok announced. "The humans of Earth will receive minimal support going forward. Resources will be redirected to more promising civilizations." Quan stood up slowly. Every alien eye in the chamber turned toward him. He had requested permission to speak, which was unusual for a representative of such a minor species. "If I may," Quan said, his voice small and respectful. "My people are grateful for any assistance the Council provides. We understand we are not yet advanced enough to contribute much to galactic society. We hope that someday we might prove more worthy of your consideration." Several aliens made sounds that Quan recognized as laughter. One delegate muttered, "At least they know their place." Quan bowed slightly and sat back down. Inside he was smiling. The performance had been perfect. He touched a small device hidden under his sleeve, sending a coded message across thousands of light years in an instant. Deep beneath the city of Sol on Earth, Jinha received the transmission in his underground command center. The room looked like something from a science fiction movie, filled with holographic displays, quantum computers, and advanced technology that no alien had ever seen. "Phase 1 complete," Jinha read from Quan's message. "They believe we are harmless." Dr. Haran looked up from her workstation. The brilliant scientist had been studying alien biology and technology for 20 years, but always in secret. Around her, dozens of other humans worked at stations that monitored every major civilization in the galaxy. "How much did they cut our resources?" Harin asked. 60%, Jinha replied. "Perfect. It gives us an excuse to struggle even more publicly." Jinha walked to the center of the room, where a massive holographic display showed the real state of human civilization. Hidden orbital platforms surrounded Earth, disguised as weather monitoring stations. Secret bases operated on dozens of asteroids and moons throughout the solar system. Advanced manufacturing facilities produced weapons and ships that were generations ahead of anything aliens had seen humans use. Most importantly, the display showed the Prometheus project. For 30 years, human scientists had been working on humanity's greatest secret. They had learned to control their own evolution, not through genetic engineering or cybernetic implants, but by unlocking the natural adaptability that had always made humans special. 50 years, Jinha said to his staff. 50 years of playing weak. 50 years of letting them think we are nothing more than curious children who got lucky. They have no idea what desperation breeds in humanity. Harin joined him at the display. Her fingers moved through holographic data showing the biological profiles of 17 different alien species. Their mistake is thinking that evolution stops once you become smart. They do not understand that humans evolve through crisis. And they are about to give us the greatest crisis in our history. Around them, hundreds of human technicians and scientists continued their work. Every person in the facility knew the truth. Earth was not a struggling backwater planet. It was the most advanced military fortress in the galaxy, hidden behind a carefully crafted illusion of weakness. "The other colonies?" Jinha asked. "All reporting successful integration," Harin replied. "Our people have been living on alien worlds for decades now, working as servants, researchers, traders, learning their languages, studying their weaknesses, mapping their infrastructure. When the time comes, we will know everything about them." Jinha nodded. The plan was proceeding exactly as designed. Humans had a unique gift among galactic species. They could pretend to be weak while becoming strong. They could smile while preparing for war. They could appear grateful while plotting victory. "Send word to all departments," Jinha commanded. "Begin Phase 2 preparations. And remind everyone, we are not preparing to fight a war. We are preparing to win one that they do not even know has already started." The message went out through quantum-encrypted channels to human facilities across the galaxy. On the surface, Earth would continue to appear as a struggling world of primitive beings. Underground, humanity would prepare for the day when they would show the galaxy what humans really were. That day was coming soon. 3 months later, the Galactic Council met again. This time, the crystal chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Emergency sessions were rare, and this one had been called by the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Admiral Quan sat in his usual spot in the minor species section. He watched as the major powers filed in, the Vorthic Empire with their red skin and 4 arms, the crystal beings of the hegemony who glowed with inner light, the insect-like swarm queens with their clicking mandibles. All of them looked serious. High Speaker Velthok floated to the center of the chamber. The gray alien's voice carried across the room without any technology, a sign of his species' natural abilities. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Velthok began, "we face a growing threat to our civilization." Population studies showed dangerous trends among several minor species. One in particular has become a serious concern. A holographic display appeared showing population charts and resource consumption data. Quan recognized Earth's statistics immediately, though they had been altered to look much worse than reality. "The humans of Earth," Velthok continued, "have increased their numbers by 40% in just 50 years. Their resource consumption has doubled. Computer models predict they will demand new colonies within a generation." Ambassador Zathkar stood up, his red skin darker than usual with anger. "They are like a disease. They multiply without control. They consume everything in their path. Soon they will spread across the galaxy like a plague. Other delegates began shouting agreement. Quan heard words like infestation and contamination being thrown around in a dozen alien languages. He kept his face calm, but inside he was recording every word, every face, every species that supported what was coming next. "The solution is clear," announced Queen Zareth of the Swarm. Her insect-like voice clicked and buzzed through the chamber's translation system. "Species 47,291 must be contained before they become a true threat." "Contained how?" asked the delegate. "From the back." Velthok's glowing eyes swept across the chamber. "Through controlled extinction. It is the only way to preserve galactic stability." The words hit the chamber like a bomb. Controlled extinction meant the complete destruction of an entire species. It had only been used 3 times in galactic history, and each time against civilizations that had committed terrible crimes against other worlds. Humans had committed no crimes. Their only sin was existing in large numbers. Quan felt his heart racing, but he forced his breathing to stay steady. This was the moment Earth had been preparing for. The moment when humanity would learn if their 50 years of planning had been enough. "I call for a formal vote," Velthok announced. "All in favor of designating species 47,291 for controlled extinction?" The voting began immediately. One by one, civilizations across the galaxy raised their appendages, flashed their lights, or made their species sign for agreement. The Vorthic Empire voted yes. The Crystal Hegemony voted yes. The Swarm Queens voted yes. Quan watched in fascination, as thousands of alien beings voted to kill every human alive. Not one single civilization spoke up for Earth. Not one delegate suggested looking for alternatives. Not one voice called for mercy. It was perfect, exactly what humanity had hoped for. When the voting ended, the result was displayed for all to see. 47,832 civilizations in favor of human extinction. 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. "The motion passes unanimously," Velthok declared. "The humans of Earth are hereby designated for controlled extinction. Military forces will be deployed within 1 standard galactic month." Quan stood up slowly. Every alien in the chamber turned to look at the representative of the species they had just condemned to death. His human face looked pale and shocked. Exactly as they expected. "Please," Quan said, his voice shaking with what sounded like fear. "My people—" "We have done nothing wrong. We are not a threat to anyone. Surely there must be another way?" The chamber filled with what passed for laughter among the assembled aliens. One delegate called out, "Your species should have thought of that before breeding like insects." Another shouted, "At least insects serve a purpose." Quan's shoulders sagged in apparent defeat. How long do my people have?" 1 standard month to prepare for the inevitable," Velthok replied. "Use the time wisely. Perhaps your species can face extinction with some dignity." Quan bowed his head and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, aliens were already discussing how to divide Earth's resources after the humans were gone. The planet had some valuable minerals, and its location made it useful as a military outpost. None of them noticed the small smile on Quan's face as he left the building. Back on Earth, Jinha stood in the command center watching the live broadcast from the Galactic Council. Every human on the planet was connected to the same quantum network, receiving the news simultaneously. The chamber around Jinha had changed. Since 3 months ago, what had been a secret facility was now revealed as the true heart of human civilization. Thousands of technicians worked at stations monitoring every aspect of the galaxy. Holographic displays showed the positions of alien fleets, the locations of their homeworlds, and the status of human agents embedded throughout their societies. "Citizens of Earth," Jinha's voice echoed in the mind of every human alive through quantum-linked neural implants. "Today the galaxy learned what we have always known. The universe does not care about fairness, justice, or mercy. It only respects strength." Harin activated her workstation, and across the planet, every human felt a subtle change in their brain chemistry. The Prometheus Protocol was beginning. 50 years of preparation were about to pay off. For 50 years, Jinha continued, we have prepared for this moment. For 50 years, we have been becoming something they cannot understand. Today, we stop pretending to be weak. On the surface, Earth looked the same as always. Cities functioned normally. People went to work and school. Children played in parks. But deep beneath the surface, humanity's true nature was awakening. Hidden factories that had been disguised as mining operations began producing weapons that no alien had ever imagined. Orbital platforms that looked like weather satellites revealed themselves as the most advanced defense system in the galaxy. Human agents scattered across thousands of alien worlds received their activation codes. The extinction fleet would arrive in 30 days. They expected to find a helpless species begging for mercy. Instead, they would discover what humans become when they have nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Harin looked at the biological readouts streaming across her displays. Every human on Earth was beginning to change, their DNA rewriting itself in response to the ultimate survival pressure. Not through technology or genetic engineering, but through the same biological mechanisms that had once helped their ancestors survive ice ages and plagues. How long until the transformation is complete? Jinha asked. 28 days, Harin replied. 2 days before they arrive, Jinha smiled. It would be enough time. When the alien fleets reached Earth, they would not be fighting the primitive species they remembered from the council chambers. They would be fighting something entirely new. Something that had been forged in the fire of extinction itself. Something that refused to die. 6 months after the galaxy voted for human extinction, panic spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. High Speaker Velthok floated in his private chamber, reading reports that made no sense. His gray hands shook as he processed the impossible information. 17 Vorthok mining colonies had vanished. Not destroyed. Not conquered, gone, where thriving worlds once existed. Space scanners found nothing but empty void. The first report had come from Admiral Zethkar himself. His red skin had turned almost purple with fear as he transmitted from his flagship. The colonies are not there anymore. Our star charts show empty space. It is like they never existed. Velthok called an emergency meeting of the Council's Security Committee. Representatives from 12 major civilizations gathered in the crystal chamber, all carrying the same terrified expression. How does an entire world disappear? Demanded Queen Zareth, her insect-like voice clicking with anxiety. Planets do not just vanish. The head of galactic intelligence, a crystal being named Krextal, projected holographic data into the center of the room. We have confirmed the disappearance of 47 mining installations, 6 research stations, and 3 military outposts. All belong to species that voted for human extinction. What about their defense systems? Asked another delegate. Number? Distress signals, no battle recordings, no debris fields. They simply stopped existing between one scan and the next. Meanwhile, on Earth, Jinha stood in the war room that now spanned the entire planet's core. The transformation was remarkable. Every human brain had become part of a vast thinking network, processing information at speeds that made alien supercomputers look like pocket calculators. Children, who had been solving math problems 6 months ago, now calculated battle strategies involving millions of variables. Elderly people who had been tending gardens now coordinated supply chains across dimensional space. Every human alive had become something more than what they were before. Status. Report, Jinha commanded. His voice echoed through quantum channels to every corner of human civilization. Harin materialized as a hologram beside him. She was currently aboard a human stealth ship near the Vorthak homeworld, but the quantum network let her consciousness exist in multiple places at once. Phase shift operations are proceeding perfectly, Harin reported. Our stealth fleets have eliminated 63 alien installations using dimensional displacement technology. We are not just invisible to their sensors. We exist slightly outside their reality framework. They are fighting ghosts. Jinha nodded as he reviewed tactical data flowing through his enhanced mind. The truth was becoming clear to the Galaxies. Intelligence services, though they refused to believe it, for 50 years, humans had not been hiding in their solar system. They had been everywhere. Human merchants who had seemed grateful for small trading opportunities had actually been mapping every alien trade route and defense network. Human researchers who had appeared eager to learn alien science had been studying the weaknesses in every major civilization. Human diplomats who had acted humble and respectful had been learning how to destroy their hosts from within. Now, these sleeper agents were revealing their true purpose. On the crystal world of Hegemony Prime, a human named Park, who had worked as a maintenance technician for 30 years, uploaded a virus into the planet's power grid. The entire world went dark in seconds. In the confusion that followed, other human agents struck at communication arrays, defense satellites, and government buildings. On the insect homeworld of the swarm, a human woman called Lee, who had been studying their reproduction cycles for 2 decades, released a biological agent that made the queen's eggs unable to hatch. The swarm faced extinction within a generation unless they found a cure that only humans possessed, but the most terrifying discovery for the aliens came from their prison systems. Captured humans did not break under interrogation like other species. Instead, they adapted. Dr. Harin reviewed the biological reports with fascination. The humans we allowed to be captured on the Vorthok colonies adapted to breathe their atmosphere. Within days, by the 2nd week, they were processing Vorthok toxins as nutrition. By the 4th week, they were stronger than their guards. The transformation was not just physical. Captured humans learned alien languages not through study, but by rewiring their brains to understand completely different ways of thinking. They absorbed alien cultures so thoroughly that they could predict their captors' actions better than the aliens could predict their own. It gets worse, Harin continued. The humans we lost on purpose to the crystal hegemony have learned to exist partially as energy beings. The ones captured by the swarm are developing hive mind capabilities that exceed the insect's own collective intelligence. Jinha smiled as he processed this information. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their cunning. It was their biological gift for becoming whatever the situation required them to become. Admiral Quan finally revealed himself during what would be the Galactic Council's final session. He stood before the assembled aliens with inhuman grace, his body moving in ways that seemed to bend space around him. "You have been asking the wrong questions," Quan announced to the terrified delegates. His voice carried harmonics that made every alien's translation system struggle to keep up. "You wanted to kill us because we reproduced too quickly and consumed too many resources. But you never asked the important question." Velthok tried to activate security systems, but nothing responded. Human agents had been maintaining those systems for decades. What question? Velthok whispered. Quan's smile was no longer human. It was something far more dangerous. What happens to a species that is really, truly good at surviving when you give them an extinction-level threat to survive? Around the chamber, other human diplomats and servants removed their masks of submission. Some had been working in the council building for 40 years. Others had been integrated into alien society since childhood. All of them had been waiting for this moment. "You thought you were fighting a war against primitive humans," Quan continued. "But you were never fighting humans. You were fighting human evolution. And evolution, my dear former colleagues, does not lose." The lights in the chamber began to flicker as human agents took control of every system in the building. Outside, the crystal spires of Zentara Prime went dark one by one, as 50 years of infiltration finally bore fruit. "We gave you every chance to treat us fairly," Quan said as emergency alarms began wailing throughout the city. "We spent 50 years proving we could coexist peacefully, but you chose extinction instead. So we will show you what extinction looks like when it comes from a species that refuses to die." The holographic displays around the chamber lit up with tactical readouts. Alien fleets throughout the galaxy were under attack by forces they could not see, could not understand, and could not fight. Human ships phased in and out of reality like nightmares made real. Human agents activated sabotage programs that had been waiting decades to trigger. Human biology adapted to every defense the aliens could deploy. Surrender now, Quan offered, and we will allow you to exist as autonomous entities under human guidance. Continue fighting and discover what 12 billion apex predators can accomplish when they stop playing nice. The galaxy that had voted for human extinction was learning the most important lesson in the universe. Never threaten a species that is better at evolution than you are at war. 2 years after the galaxy declared war on humanity, the universe had become unrecognizable. What started as a simple extermination had turned into the aliens' worst nightmare. Jinha no longer looked human. His consciousness existed across multiple dimensions, commanding battles on 1,000 different fronts at the same time. His physical body floated in a quantum field deep beneath Earth's surface, connected to every human mind in the galaxy through networks that bent space and time. "Report from Sector 7, he said, his voice echoing through dimensions. Harin appeared beside him as a shimmering projection. She was currently leading a scientific mission near the galactic core, but part of her mind always remained connected to Earth's command center. "The Vorthic Empire has fallen," she reported. "Their red sun went out this morning. Not destroyed, extinguished. We learned to manipulate stellar cores from their own solar engineers." Jinha processed this information while simultaneously coordinating 17 other military operations. The human collective had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a species-wide organism that could think, learn, and adapt as one entity while keeping each person's individual creativity and initiative. "What about their fleet?" Jinha asked. "Converted?" Harin replied with a smile that was no longer entirely human. Admiral Park led the operation. "The Vorthak ships now fight for us with perfect efficiency. Their crews thank us for showing them a better way to exist." This was humanity's most terrifying weapon. They did not just defeat their enemies, they converted them. Alien ships, reprogrammed by human intelligence, turned on their creators with mechanical precision. But more frightening still, the alien crews often chose to serve humanity willingly after experiencing what human leadership offered. "The crystal hegemony?" Jinha continued. "Their capital world experienced a cascade revolution yesterday," Harin reported. "Humans had been working there as servants and technicians for 40 years. When they activated, the entire civilization collapsed in 6 hours. The truth was spreading through what remained of the alien governments. Humans had not conquered these worlds through invasion. They had triggered precise social collapses by understanding exactly where each civilization was vulnerable. On Hegemony Prime, human agents had learned that the crystal being's entire society depended on a complex system of light-based communication. By introducing tiny changes to their communication networks over decades, the humans had created hidden instabilities. When the time came, a single pulse of modified light caused every crystal being on the planet to lose the ability to communicate with each other. Their civilization fell apart in hours as panic and confusion took hold. "The Swarm Queens?" Jinha asked, though he already knew the answer through their shared consciousness. "Queen Zareth surrendered this morning," Harin confirmed. "She begged us to cure the reproduction virus we released. In exchange, she offered the loyalty of every insect in her empire." Jinha nodded as he processed battle reports from across the galaxy. The most chilling aspect of humanity's war was not their tactical brilliance or technological superiority. It was their biological adaptability. Humans fighting in the methane clouds of gas giant worlds had learned to process the toxic atmosphere as nutrition. Those battling in the crushing gravity of neutron star systems had developed bones denser than metal. The humans assigned to combat energy-based life forms had learned to exist partially as pure consciousness. "We are not conquering them," Harin explained to a group of newly converted alien scientists who were studying human evolution. "We are out-evolving them. They spent millions of years becoming what they are. We become what we need to be in real time." But humanity's psychological warfare was perhaps even more devastating than their physical adaptations. Humans had learned to speak directly to each species' deepest evolutionary fears when fighting the prey runners. a species that had evolved from small hunted animals. Humans had learned to mimic their ancient predators perfectly. The prey runners would flee in terror at the mere sight of a human. Even though they were individually much larger and stronger when battling the apex hunters, a species of natural predators who had never known fear, humans had demonstrated hunting techniques that exceeded anything the aliens could imagine. The apex hunters, faced with creatures that outpredated them, had begged for mercy within days. The remaining council fleets? Jinha asked, already knowing the answer but confirming for the record. 17% have surrendered voluntarily. Haran replied. 38% have been converted through technological integration. 22% have been eliminated through dimensional displacement. The remaining 23% are requesting negotiations. Jinha smiled, an expression that would have terrified any alien who saw it. His features had changed during the war, becoming something that was still recognizably human but enhanced beyond normal biological limits. Admiral Quan materialized in the command center, his form shifting between physical presence and quantum energy. He had been leading the final assault on the Council's remaining strongholds. The last resistance collapsed 1 hour ago, Quan reported. The Council chambers on Zentara Prime have been secured. The surviving delegates are asking to discuss terms. Terms? Jinha laughed, and the sound carried harmonics that resonated across multiple dimensions. They voted unanimously for our extinction. They mobilized the entire galaxy against us. They tried to wipe out every human child, every human dream, every human possibility. And now they want to discuss terms? Haran pulled up holographic displays showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked civilizations that had fallen to human forces. Blue zones showed species that had voluntarily joined humanity. Green zones indicated civilizations that had never voted for human extinction and were under human protection. The map was almost entirely blue and green. Only a few small red zones remained, and those were shrinking by the hour. What are your orders? Quan asked. Jinha considered this carefully. The human collective could wipe out every remaining alien civilization within days. Their technology was now generations ahead of anything their former enemies possessed. Their biological adaptability meant they could survive and thrive in any environment. Their psychological warfare techniques could break the will of entire species, but Jinha remembered what it meant to be human. Not just the fire and determination that had carried them through this war, but the compassion and wisdom that made them worth saving. Send them a message, Jinha decided. Tell the remaining council members that humanity is offering them the same choice we gave all the others. Surrender completely and accept human guidance or face the consequences of their original decision. And if they refuse? And Asta Jinha's expression became something that was both merciful and terrifying. Then they will learn why you should never declare war on a species that is better at evolution than you are at existing. The galaxy held its breath as humanity's message spread to every surviving civilization. The species that had once voted for human extinction now faced a simple choice: submit to the creatures they had tried to destroy, or discover what those creatures had become when pushed beyond all limits. Most chose submission. The few that did not simply ceased to exist, not through destruction, but through a kind of evolutionary obsolescence that left no trace they had ever lived. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. 5 years after the galaxy had voted for humanity's extinction, Ambassador Jinha stood before the rebuilt Galactic Council. The meeting chamber now orbited Earth, a crystal and metal structure that combined the best architecture from 1,000 different worlds. Jinha still looked human, though his eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. He had chosen to keep his original form as a reminder of what humanity had been before the universe forced them to evolve. The chamber was full, but everything had changed. Where once aliens had sat in judgment over lesser species, now representatives from every surviving civilization worked together as equals. The humans had not built an empire of slaves. They had created a community of partners. Welcome, friends, Jinha began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber without any technology. Today marks the 5th anniversary of the Transformation War. It is fitting that we use this day to look forward, not back. In the front rows sat former enemies who had become humanity's strongest allies. Queen Zareth of the Swarm had evolved new communication methods with human help, allowing her people to think as individuals while maintaining their collective strength. The crystal beings of the former hegemony now glowed brighter than ever, their inner light enhanced by human-designed improvements to their energy systems. Even Admiral Zethkar was present, though he looked very different from the arrogant red-skinned warrior who had once demanded human extinction. His forearms now moved with careful precision as he took notes, his species having learned patience and wisdom under human guidance. Harin entered the chamber and took her place beside Jinha. She served as the Galaxies' chief evolution coordinator, helping struggling civilizations overcome challenges that had stymied them for millennia. Her appearance was still recognizably human, but her eyes held the same deep intelligence that came from connecting with billions of other minds. "The integration reports," Jinha requested. Harin activated a holographic display that showed the current state of galactic civilization. Instead of the red zones of conquest that had marked their military maps years ago, the display now showed green zones of prosperity spreading throughout the galaxy. "The Vortha colonies have achieved 100% sustainability," Harin announced. "Their new solar management system will keep their worlds warm for the next million years. The swarm has developed individual creativity while maintaining collective efficiency. The crystal hegemony has learned to communicate across dimensional barriers. These were not forced improvements. Humans did not rule through fear or oppression. Instead, they served as teachers and guides, helping each species discover their own potential for growth and development." "The fear," Jinha said quietly, addressing the chamber, "is gone. It was true. For the first time in galactic history, no civilization lived in terror of being conquered or destroyed by its neighbors. Under human protection and guidance, even the weakest species could develop their unique abilities without worry." Admiral Kwan entered the chamber, his form shifting slightly as he moved between physical and energy states. He now served as Earth's cultural ambassador, helping new species understand what it meant to live in the human-guided galaxy. "Status report from the Outer Rim," Kwan announced. 3 new civilizations have requested admission to the galactic community. All have been evaluated and approved for integration. The integration process was careful and thorough. Humans had learned from their own experience that forced change led to resistance and hatred. Instead, they offered each new species a choice: join the community and receive help reaching their full potential, or remain independent with human protection but without direct assistance. Most chose to join. The benefits were too obvious to ignore. A young alien from a recently discovered world raised what passed for a hand among her species. Jinha recognized her as representative of the singers, a species that communicated through musical tones. "Ambassador Jinha," she sang in harmonious notes, "my people wonder about the stories we hear. Did humans really become so powerful in just 50 years? Jinha smiled, and for a moment he looked like the same admiral who had sat quietly in the old council chambers years ago. "We became what we needed to become. But more importantly, we remembered what we chose to remain." He gestured to the chamber around them. "We could have ruled through fear. We could have enslaved every species in the galaxy. We had the power to remake the universe in any image we desired. But we chose instead to help others become the best versions of themselves." Harin stepped forward. "The human gift is not our ability to evolve, though that served us well during the war. Our true gift is our choice to remain human even when we become something greater." She activated another display, this one showing Earth itself. The planet looked much as it always had, with blue oceans and green continents, but now it served as the heart of a galactic civilization that spanned millions of worlds. "Beneath Earth's surface," Harin continued, "we maintain the archives of transformation. Every choice we made during the war, every price we paid for. Survival, every moment of pain and sacrifice that brought us to where we are today. Quan nodded gravely. Those archives serve two purposes. They remind us of what humans can become when threatened with extinction, and they warn us never to let ourselves or others face such desperation again. The chamber was silent as the assembled beings processed this. The humans had not hidden their past or pretended the war had been easy. They had preserved every detail of their transformation as both memorial and warning. "But there is more," Jinha said, his voice carrying new warmth. "The archives also contain our greatest discovery. We learned that true strength is not the ability to destroy your enemies. True strength is the wisdom to turn enemies into friends." He looked around the chamber at faces that had once voted for human extinction and now worked alongside humanity to build a better galaxy. Every species here once feared us or hated us or wanted us dead. Now we work together to solve problems that no single civilization could handle alone. We have turned the galaxy from a place of constant war into a community of cooperation. A holographic message appeared in the center of the chamber. It was from a newly discovered species on the far edge of the galaxy, requesting contact with the galactic community. Jinha read the message aloud. "We are the dreamers of the void. We have heard stories of the human-guided galaxy where species work together instead of fighting each other. We wish to learn if these stories are true." The chamber filled with sounds of approval from dozens of different species. Another civilization wanted to join their community. Another group of beings would have the chance to reach their full potential without fear. "Send them our standard welcome," Jinha instructed. "Tell them the stories are true. Tell them they can have a place here if they choose cooperation over conquest." As the meeting concluded, Jinha reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. Humanity had faced extinction and chosen to become something unprecedented, a species that conquered through evolution but ruled through wisdom. The galaxy that had once dismissed them as primitive apes now looked to them for guidance. But the humans had not forgotten the most important lesson of their transformation. Power without wisdom leads to destruction, but wisdom with power can build miracles. The age of human dominance had begun not with conquest but with the choice to remain human even when they became gods. Chat controls Sonnet 4.